All right, Ari, what about here in Cincinnati, where Sam and I live? A lot of discussion around what they're going to do with their stars. Joe Burrow actively recruiting or just, imploring the Bengals to keep his friends in town. T. Higgins gets the second franchise tag. Jamar Chase, supposedly we have an initial contract offer, right, in Cincinnati. They're not necessarily close. How does all of this get sorted? Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati.
I'm going to try to keep it as simple as possible. If they want to keep all three players, they got to get to 40 million per year for Jamar, 30 million per year for T, and then about 32, 33 per year for Trey Hendrickson. And they're nowhere close on all three right now. So that's kind of where they are right now. And it's interesting because I think the one that will eventually get done for sure is Jamar Chase. I mean, they said that at the combine. Their executive, Tuke Tobin, said we're going to make him the highest paid non-quarterback in football right now. That is 34 a year or 35 a year. They're right now sitting at 36, 37, but his agent, who also happens to be the same agent for T. Higgins, was like, if you wanted him at that number, that was last year. You guys made him play another year of year and entering the final year of his contract. Now we got to go to a whole new stratosphere. So his number right now is $40 million per year. For T. Higgins, now that they've tagged him at 26 a year, the reason why it's a little bit complicated now is because he knows for sure, no matter what, next year, they're not tagging him for a third time. So he's going to have that ability to go to the free agent market next year at age 27, and he's going to make it. They're not tagging him a third time. It becomes too expensive. So now you have to get to a number where it's worth it for him to do an extension versus playing it out and for sure making it to the open market at age 27. As long as he's healthy, he's going to get a big contract next year and have more teams at the table. So that's where it becomes a little bit complex. T did switch agents a few months ago to have the same agent as Jamar, just to make things even more uncomfortable over here for them. And Joe Burrow has been putting this public pressure out there to the organization where from weeks 16, 17, 18, he was out there doing his media sessions and talking about how important it is to have T back. Last year, when they tagged him for the first time, they told him and his former agent that we're tagging you once. We're not going to try to do an extension now. Go play it out. You become a free agent next year. All of a sudden, Joe Burrow put all this public pressure on them, and it's like, holy cow, we have the quarterback over here going crazy on us. We got to do something. So the only difference this year is, yes, they've tagged him, but they've had more extension talks than they had at this time last year. Now, will that result in a deal? I'm not sure. I do know T is very frustrated. The one thing that T has also told his new agent is that I'm controlling the narrative this year, which is why, if you guys have realized, he's been tweeting every single news thing that has happened so far. And if anything goes wrong, he puts out that blue cap and saying it's not true. So he's going to control the narrative this year on his own, and not let anybody else do it. But to this point, they're not at $30 million per year, and the guarantees are not that strong. And it's still taking some time. And believe me, the Joe Burrow pressure, it's getting to the front office, it's getting to the ownership. They know about it. They know that they cannot have this keep on going every year where they let good players out the building. Jesse Bates, DJ Reader, and on every year. They keep on having good players leave the building, which as a result is part of the reason why they've struggled a little bit on the field. Trey Hendrickson is the other one. To this point, again, they're very far apart. What I would say is that a couple of weeks ago, I would have said there's no chance he gets traded. I think there's the possibility is out there. Like if they're able to get a crazy, crazy offer for him, I think they'd be willing to listen. They don't want to trade him. They want to keep him. But now their ears are a little bit open, I would say, when it comes to that situation. So it's one to watch over here. The number has to be 32, 33 million per year in order to make it happen. He has 1 year and $16 million left. He knows his value. He knows that Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, Max Crosby, and those type of players are all going to get paid this offseason as well. Those guys also third contracts. So he knows where the market is going, and he wants to be paid accordingly. And to this point, they've been very far apart, like they've been with the other two guys as well.
How likely do you think that it is that somebody shows up with a trade offer that makes the Bengals interested in T. Higgins? So they've obviously tagged him, but that doesn't mean, and they would like to keep him. They're trying to talk to make an extension, but with all this money they have to find to make that happen. We're in a world now where, as you said, every single team's got their first round draft pick. If it would even take that with a low first round pick, how likely is it that a team in this free agent group that's not amazing looks at T. Higgins as the clear number one guy? They have the money to spend, that they're willing to trade something to the Bengals that would make them move T. Higgins. And then the second question I wanted to hit you, that's just a quick one to confirm. Cincinnati can do this, right? Like, this is not a case of, oh man, we can only really afford to pay one of these guys. Like, if they want to keep 3 of these guys in the building, it's expensive, but they can do that.
Yeah, let me start with the second part. Yes, they could do it. I mean, everyone brings up the fact that they are cash poor compared to other teams, but every team has ways of structuring contracts. The Bengals are very unique where they only usually guarantee the first year. They give you a very large signing bonuses, but they did change that precedent a little bit with Joe Burrow. But if they want to do this, they could do it. And I think they should realize, and I think Joe Burrow has put that pressure on them to realize that we're in a situation right now where we have good players and we could compete, and we're letting good players out the building, and we cannot let this happen. They've changed their business fashion over here over the last couple of years where, they changed the naming rights, and they've built a new locker room, and they've done different things over here to get better. The one thing they haven't changed yet is the way they handle contracts. So if they're willing to change the structures where they're willing to spread out the guarantees a little bit more instead of doing this one big lump sum payment, they could definitely make it happen and make it a little bit easier instead of having this problem with the cash every single year and giving it out in year one so heavy and not doing the rest of the year. So there's ways of doing this, and if they're willing to break precedent, it could become even easier. But every team is able to do it. I mean, Joe Burrow brought the Eagles example. That is a very extreme one, but they should at least be able to get to half of to the middle point of where the NFL is when it comes to their cash spending and the way they're able to handle the salary cap and restructure contracts. Like, they don't do it that much. And if they're willing to do it, they'd be able to get all these guys under contract and make it happen. So we'll see if they change it. I know that the pressure has gotten to them. The Joe Burrow stuff, Joe Burrow is a very private guy. The fact that he's willing to go out there and become public and he doesn't need to go to Media Row and be, sponsored by FedEx. He has enough money. He's doing it because he wants to get the message across publicly. So he's been doing it just to get the message across. And I think it's gotten across, but now it's time to actually get these deals done, and we'll see if they do. The T trade stuff, it's known around the NFL. If they were willing to put him on the block, there's one team who would be very, very aggressive. It would be New England. But to this point, again, he has not been available on the trade market. And just the Bengals historically, just the way the franchise operates, they don't get rattled by trade requests. They were not rattled last year by T. They were not rattled the year before by Jesse Bates. They were not rattled by Carson Palmer years ago. There was Carlos Dunlap, Chad Ochocinco, TJ Houshmandzadeh. All those players made trade requests, and they were like, okay, so what? It just doesn't affect them. So I don't think it would work with a team like them, which is why to this point, with a new agent, T has not done it yet. There have been rumblings out there. Will he do it? And I'm watching and waiting for it. But to this point, he hasn't done it. But if they put him on the market, I guarantee you many teams would be interested. And one team would likely offer their first-round pick, assuming it's not a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick. They would do it. So they would just have to be willing to put him out there. But will they actually do that and get Joe Burrow pissed off? I don't think it's worth it. So I don't think they would ever do it.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.